Planetary Influence with Kerry Shamblin.
This is Kerry with the June 2022 Astrological Forecast. Here's a summary. During the first week of June, we have Mercury resuming direct motion after a few weeks of retrograde cycle, and Saturn beginning a 6-month retrograde cycle. This could feel like shifting gears, as our slow and deliberate planet Saturn can sometimes move things along more quickly when retrograde. Additionally, Mercury's transition back to direct motion can leave things feeling unsure or disorganized. The first half of June sees the moon waxing, moving through the first half of the zodiac and reaching full status on June 14th in Scorpio. This could be a good time for understanding new strategies for transformation, with the moon waxing and with Mercury regaining his balance. Just after the full moon, the sun moves from Taurus to Gemini on June 15th for a month in Mercury's air sign. The summer solstice occurs when the sun transits Gemini, yielding the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, June 21st. Gemini is active and could inspire journeys from mid-June to mid-July. After the sun leaves Taurus, Venus enters on June 18th. Venus rules Taurus, giving strength to the combination with Mercury. These two energetic, inspired, and enthusiastic movers will support social and business connections, creativity, communication, and networking from mid-June through July 2nd, when Mercury enters Gemini. Things may heat up when Mars joins Rahu in Aries from June 27th through October 10th, with Aries being the first sign of the zodiac. Ruled by Mars himself, we could see the spark that ignites our new plans. Rahu amplifies the energy of planets in his vicinity, and Mars tends toward power and action. Retrograde Saturn in Aquarius will aspect this combination in Aries through July 12th, which provides the air that sparks need to ignite. Be careful with your actions as the summer heats up. Pay attention and keep the water jug at hand. The waning moon joins the sun at 14 degrees Gemini on June 28th. This new moon falls in the nakshatra of Ardra, ruled by Rahu, urging us to relax as June becomes July. The urge from all other quarters will be to move bravely ahead. Do so with both courage and caution. Mercury resumes direct motion in Taurus on June 3rd. Mercury's duties include ensuring that channels for communication and exchanges remain open and that information remains available. When retrograde Mercury takes over for a few weeks at a time, we may find ourselves taking a few steps back to make corrections that are required because of rapid activity. Mercury began a retrograde cycle on May 10th, which ends on June 3rd, pulling Mercury back through a recently traversed section of Venus's Earth sign, Taurus. With the material world strongly represented in Taurus, and with Venus and Mercury both associated with business, we have seen the global financial markets sharply fall since mid-May. This instability may level out somewhat after the retrograde cycle. When Mercury regains direct motion at 2 degrees Taurus on June 3rd, we may want to take a few days to rebalance our strategies before forging ahead with our trajectories. As Mercury's analytical magic lens refocuses, we may quickly see what needs to shift in order to keep ourselves on track. What we must change could be reflected in the next planetary shift, which is Saturn taking retrograde motion on June 4th at 2 degrees Aquarius. It is interesting that the two planets mentioned here are Saturn and Mercury. natural friends who help us learn the lessons of detachment and currency, both of which are necessary to feel as if we are flowing instead of stagnating. Each of them is moving in and out of retrograde motion at 2 degrees of Taurus and Aquarius, both fixed signs. The fixed signs are good for stability, but not so much for facilitating change. Perhaps the lesson here lies in letting go, even when it threatens stability. As Mercury begins his forward motion again, we may feel this as a renewed excitement for creative projects or within social circles. This is a great space for writing, group collaboration, networking, and entertaining. Mercury moves forward once again through Taurus, joined by Venus starting on June 17th, which will energize both of these enthusiastic planets. Mercury departs Taurus for his own air sign of Gemini on July 2nd. Saturn will be retrograde from June 4th to October 22nd. We see Mercury retrograde often associated with communication problems. This is, in effect, Mercury giving us opposite results from what we expect, which is clear, intelligent, and organized communication. When Saturn goes retrograde, we can predict his offerings to be the opposite of what we expect, which is deliberate, obstructive, slow, careful, and plodding. That said, we may experience a lighter, quicker, less anxious version of Saturn as he makes a retrograde tour of Aquarius and Capricorn from June 4th through October 22nd. Saturn is a slow-moving planet, transiting each sign for roughly 2.5 years, giving us ample time to understand his tough love. In contrast to Saturn, with Mercury, we experience 3 retrograde cycles of 3 weeks each year. Mercury rules the 3rd sign and the 6th sign, 3 plus 3, of the zodiac. With Mercury retrograde, we often get multiple facets, triple experiences, and the sense of repeating in order to learn. The lessons and effects that Mercury brings with his transits and retrograde cycles may be quite different from those of his friend Saturn, who will be in retrograde phase once per year for 4 to 5 months. Rather than having a flurry of experiences that rush us toward a rapid learning experience, we may have one situation that has serious long-term implications that begins to take off, causing a strange sensation of doubting what we have been wanting and preparing for. Dear Saturn will be in strength as he transits across both of his signs for nearly 6 years, from January of 2020 to March of 2025. During this Saturn retrograde cycle, starting in Aquarius and crossing back to Capricorn on July 12th, we will see Saturn once again transition between notably different environments, both of which he rules. When Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius, from June 4th through July 12th, pay attention to what is working or not with the already laid foundations. With Saturn prepared to return to Aquarius for a longer stay between January 2023 and March 2025, this may give us some foresight into how things develop. This is a chance to make foundational changes. When Saturn is in retrograde in Aquarius, we may be shown what is not working, what we actually want out of the situation, and or how to create a workable solution. When Saturn moves back to Capricorn from July 12th, remaining retrograde until October 22nd, we may feel as if we're going back to the ground floor. An interesting observation that arcs from October of 2020 is that the aspect influence between Rahu and Saturn has shifted, with Saturn entering Aquarius and Rahu moving to Taurus. From October of 2020 to April of 2022, Rahu was transiting Taurus and aspecting the sign of Capricorn and Saturn himself, who was transiting there. Now, Rahu has moved to Aries, and Saturn has landed in Aquarius, where he is casting an aspect upon Rahu, reversing the relationship in a sense. With this new paradigm, we have structure and limitation asserting influence on chaos and instability, which could be more constructive than what we had prior, which was chaos influencing structure. We can use this to restore order to recently disturbed situations. The full moon will be in Scorpio, Jesta, June 14th. The new moon of late May falls on May 30th, when Sun and Moon join midway through the sign of Taurus. As May becomes June, the moon waxes, becoming full at 30 degrees Scorpio, opposite the Sun at 30 degrees Taurus. This liminal zone between signs can indicate challenging situations. Once again, we are seeing the luminaries, the Sun and Moon, embroiled in a wrestling match with the nodes. This time, we're not experiencing eclipses, but the luminaries and the nodes are in the signs ruled by Venus and Mars, pointing toward the themes of conflict or struggle. Venus and Mars are the champions of passion, who share a mutual attraction, but not much else, making finding a balance and harmonizing quite challenging. In this full moon event, the sides are equal, with Sun, Mercury, and Ketu occupying Venus's signs, and Moon, Venus, and Rahu occupying Mars's signs. The fire and water elements are also balanced. As June warms up, we may really be feeling as if we are on the brink of a major breakthrough when it comes to the matters that Venus and Mars govern in our lives. A full moon can bring forth intense mental and emotional experiences, so it is good to balance that energy with grounding activities, especially if there are deep changes happening that require a level head. This full moon is auspicious, and with many of the planets placed in Venus's or Mars's signs, we arrive at Jupiter as the dispositor of the other planets at this time, pointing us toward graceful endings needed for healthy new growth. The integration of lessons learned is supported. Allow new understanding to soak in and find its place. Acceptance, combined with faith, will propel us forward as we establish new connections. The Sun transits Gemini, June 15th to July 16th. As the Sun and Moon relax their gaze and move ahead in their cycles, they shift signs. The Moon struggles through the Gandanta point between Scorpio and Sagittarius on June 14th as it begins to wane, while the Sun glides from Taurus to Gemini on June 15th. The Sun will transit through Mercury's air sign, Gemini, from June 15th to July 16th. The Sun is leading the spread of planets that will begin to separate from the strand of outer planets in contiguous signs, starting with Saturn in Aquarius, then Jupiter in Pisces, and finally Rahu in Aries. We have experienced some deeply difficult situations, as the inner planets have been moving past this grouping of the outer planets. The Sun moving through Gemini could feel quite liberating, as we are getting a new lease on life and learning. This is a good period for trying out new things, playing around with creative ideas, taking short trips for fun, and starting new educational pursuits. The only planet that strongly affects Gemini through aspect is Mars. This will shift on June 27th when Mars moves to Aries. We can see this as a brief aspect of Mars, as a good push-off into new explorations. Sometimes it takes courage to break out of the comfort zone and seek new avenues. Venus transits Taurus from June 18th to July 13th. The entrance of Venus into Taurus could signal a few weeks of planting seeds and setting roots. Venus has been on tour, first visiting with Saturn, then Jupiter, then Rahu, and now Mercury in her home turf of Taurus, an earth sign that is good for getting settled and rejuvenated while reconnecting with friends and cooking up creative projects. While Venus joins Rahu in Aries from May 23rd through June 17th, we could experience some turbulence in relationships and connections. But overall, Venus is friendly with Rahu, yet out of place in Mars's fire sign. It's a struggle for Venus to keep things fresh and clean in such an active sign, but it simply signals that there may be some details to iron out to pave the way forward. Venus in Taurus will be free of Rahu's amplified energy and also of Saturn's aspect, leaving us all inspired to connect, create, and exchange as Venus explores the fertile fields of Taurus from June 17th through July 13th. For the first couple weeks of this transit, Venus joins cheerful Mercury. The latter half of June looks great for gatherings and celebrations. With Rahu's smoky residue remaining in Taurus, we may be reminded that, as good as it feels to be back to our meetings and parties, some are still coping with the remnants of the pandemic. Mars joins Rahu in Aries from June 27th to August 10th. Mars pushes his way through Pisces, paddling along near Jupiter and heading for dry land toward the end of June, when he pushes out of the final sign of the zodiac and into his own fiery first sign, Aries. While the idea of amplifying Venus's energy as she passes by Rahu is one thing, the reality of a powerful and fiery Mars getting the same effect could be an urgent call for caution and attention. Rahu, with his reputation for instability, unpredictability, craving, and manipulation, could maximize Mars's strong fire. It is up to us to make precise plans and put safety first. Have a plan for how to handle sudden eruptions that require rapid refocusing. The last Rahu and Mars encounter came when Rahu was in Taurus from February 22nd, 2021 to April 13th, 2021. During that transit, Rahu was powerful in Taurus and had little to check him, with neither Jupiter nor Saturn casting an aspect his way. Compared to Aries, Taurus is more stable and grounded. Now we will have Mars in strength combined with Rahu, which does offer potential for movement, changes, and innovations. But things could get hot and move quickly, which for some could be a welcome tide. There will be an aspect to Aries and to the dynamic duo therein from Saturn in Aquarius, which will end when Saturn retreats to Capricorn on July 12th. The aspect of Saturn may actually be a positive thing during this time, giving some structure and limitation to what could be a volatile combination. There is a new moon in Gemini, Ardra, on June 28th. June draws to a close as the moon wanes, conjoining the sun at 14 degrees of Gemini on June 28th. This new moon falls in the nakshatra of Ardra, ruled by Rahu. Don't be surprised if feelings of doubt or regret edge into the mix. It never hurts to be inquisitive, but let those questions arise and then let go. During new moon, we sometimes feel the draining of our physical and mental energy, which can lead to fatigue. Rather than fighting this, behold the strength of emptiness. where we are forced to see the bottom of the pot, which strengthens our resilience and makes us all the more ready to receive energy as the moon waxes. An interesting and rare combination is occurring, which is that a number of planets are transiting through their own signs. When a planet is in its own sign, it becomes potent, powerful, and able to clearly express. Saturn in Aquarius emphasizes the combination of mental detachment and determination. Jupiter in Pisces invites the synthesis of deep, universal lessons and integration of experience, bringing wisdom. Mars in Aries grants strength and courage to initiate new ventures, consolidate resources, and engineer solutions. Venus in Taurus confers grace, compassion, inspiration, connection, and creation. Find a way to take advantage of and harness these strong and beneficial planetary placements while they are in good dignity. By July 1st, we will have quick Mercury moving to his own sign of Gemini, adding another to the list. This new moon time in Gemini bodes well for fresh starts, the desire for change and education for us who are experiencing life on Earth, which is steeped in the dramatic tango between light and dark, or self and other. This could feel like a rare moment when that which is meant to move or will move without much effort.
planetaryinfluence.com